All right, Coast to Coast Combat Hour brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out AllAccessMMA.com for your mixed martial arts news and previews and all that stuff. Ed Carbajal, as always, with Matt Hawkins as we're coming off a big doubleheader weekend from Hawaii, from Bellator, and into a super heavy, a true international fight week in Colorado that Matt's going to be in house for everything for. What's up, Matt? Are you excited?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Week away, week in a town. That I'm not super experienced at. I've been there. I think I've been there once to Denver for a baseball game, but yeah, it'll be nice to get out and kind of see some of the country and get to enjoy a new MMA organization in the United States, and
Mm-hmm.
then get to support one of our favorite fighters here, and then I get the just bleed. You know, I get a little just bleed too with
You
BKFC.
start off with the BKFC just bleed. That's for damn sure. So I mean, at least you get it out of the way early. Before we get into that, though, we have to talk about Bellator's last foray into the in Hawaii, some places the UFC can't get to for some reason. Um, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the spectacular knockout of Patchy Mix, the new Bellator Grand Prix champ, interim champ. Um, Man, I mean, the bantamweight division has long time been filled with killers there, and I think Patchy Mix is definitely the guy that like most folks, wouldn't know about. That's homegrown. He's a young man, again, shutting folks up. They like to say Bellator likes chasing after old talent or whatever it is. That's obviously not the case with Patchy Mix.
No, super talented. I think some people. I mean, I fall into it too. When he lost to Juan Archuleta, I think he kind of fell off the radar a little bit
Mm-hmm.
as far as like, okay, he's not undefeated anymore, and he can be beaten. But I mean, he's just been on a huge roll lately. The knockout spectacular. I mean, the knee step in knee, out cold knockout was wild. I went to the Laker game on Saturday night, so I missed most of the fights. But as I was, the Laker game had just ended, and I quickly went on TV and or went to my Showtime app and I caught 10 seconds before it and got to watch it. And holy hell,
He must have
ho-
known you were at the Lakers game.
it was timed nicely, but yeah, just spectacular. Great way to win $1 million. Great way to win the belt. And I think he causes a lot of problems for Pettis, Pico,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, Pitbull, whoever we end up with now. With well, Pico's division higher, and he's calling out Pitbull now. So,
Mm-hmm.
but basically Pettis or Pitbull, who fight in Chicago. I believe that's in June. Um, so I think he, with his height and his length and his confidence at this point, I think he's dangerous. I especially I think for Pettis, just because I think he'll have such a size advantage
Mm.
in that fight. I mean, Pitbull's a different animal. He's coming down from weight classes and as the experience. Nobody's more experienced than him in Bellator. So,
Yeah,
um,
Josh Thompson was commenting on that too, like just before the fight as they're walking in, how the long, the same thing I always say about ectomorphic, long, lanky guys in MMA just doing well. And when he did suffer that loss, he talked about at the post-fight press conference how it was just such a learning experience and it helped his growth. And when you're as young as those guys are, and you take L's at that point in your career, you're only going to get better or learn and get better off of them. And obviously, he's done that. The fact that that was a trained knee. I forget who he said. He almost got caught someone with that same knee in the fight previous to that. I forget the opponent, but he mentioned in the post fight press conference, it's literally something that he has automated in his you know countering against someone when he's feeling someone out, and the fact that he said that he noticed Stotts would always kind of fake for the takedown and put his chin right there to get the shot. I thought that was just it goes to show you how systematic these guys can get in the training room.
yeah, he fought the double Megomed before Megomedov. So
Mm.
and now that you say that, I think he did throw that a couple times and actually
Hmm.
glanced it a couple times off of
Yeah, yeah.
Megomed's chin. So yeah, I mean, props to the new interim champ, Grand Prix champion. Um, and
Let's hope the money doesn't change him. Because
no,
he
I
got a
mean,
million dollars off of that,
it's
you know.
going to
Yeah.
change him, but I don't think it's going to take away his hunger. I think we still have. I think you have a superstar on our hands here, a potential superstar. I mean, he's star level, getting there. The regular UFC fans will get to a point where they can't ignore him. If he picks up a couple more wins and they start seeing his name on the worldwide rankings and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I mean, just spectacular knockout. I mean, Bellator can't ask for anything better when you wrap up a Grand Prix like that to get that highlight finish. It really just gets you hungry for the next tournament.
Yeah.
You know,
Seriously. Yeah. They need to keep up the good work over there, Bellator. But as we move forward into so that's this the first thing you're going to see is BKFC 41, which is Saturday, right?
Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time,
Yeah.
uh, is
Just
the
I got to
start of
bring
the
up the fight.
prelims.
I got to bring up the fight card just because I mean, you're the one that always likes bringing up BKFC on this podcast, and the folks over there, like have been cool to jump on with, Wheelock and Lytle coming on the podcast. Wheelock more than a couple of times, but even if you don't follow BKFC in the slightest, I mean, I follow it somewhat, but if you're gonna check out a BKFC event, if you look at this fight card and the people that are on it, it's literally like your mouth will probably drop when you see some of the names. I mean, it's Eddie Alvarez versus Chad Mendez, which is crazy to me. Mendez Mendez has experience around obviously doing BKFC. Alvarez just has experience fighting. Um, and then this fight with I feel like is going under the radar with for Ferreira and Rawlings because Ferreira's she's done boxing, she's done MMA, and Rawlings. You can kind of when did they strip Rawlings of the title that she had that she's fighting for it again? Like what
Yeah,
happened with
so
her?
she was the inaugural champion.
Mm-hmm.
Fought in BKFC one. Then she left. She went to Bellator, if you remember. She signed to fight. Fought
Mm-hmm.
once or twice in Bellator. I'm not sure. And then she actually lost one of her recent fights to. I had my name. I wasn't even gonna have to pull it up, and all of a sudden it slipped my mind. One of their other faces,
Mm-hmm.
Britain Hart, in a rematch fight. She had previously beaten Britain Hart, but she's yeah, she's undefeated. I mean, other than that loss, that's her only loss in bare knuckle.
Okay.
So yeah, she was 3-0, walked away, and then came back. Went 1-1 in Bellator. Then lost to Britain Hart by decision. Kind of a weaker fight. She did lose a boxing fight match after that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
she's on a bit of a downturn as far as her career goes. But Christina Fajea is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
And Rawlings is a killer in her own right, and somebody who's not going to back down. So I think that I mean, it's I think that's going to be quite the battle. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Fajea actually had an opponent like quit
Mm.
like 10 seconds into a fight after feeling her power in her last bout. So
Yeah.
there's something about her when she brings it in the bare knuckle, the way she swings it and doesn't hold back, and it's got a lot of power for the weight class. You mentioned Mendez Alvarez. I mean, that's like a dream fight. Like that, like I mean, this
I,
is
I I
obviously
wish it was MMA, but this isn't. Considering considering how well Mendez did in his last BKFC fight, and Alvarez just his overall the underground king and all the stuff he did to make his way through MMA. I feel like this is probably something that's going to deliver.
yeah. I mean, this is a different thing.
Mm.
This is guys. There's 9 UFC veterans on this card,
Yeah.
which a lot of people will say, well, they're washed up. Well, some of them are, some of them aren't. As Sean Wheelock pointed out, Mike Perry's 30 years old. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe he left UFC at the right time to pursue something else. I mean, there's Rockhold on the other hand is obviously towards the
Hmm.
downside. Mendez and Alvarez are towards the downside, but they're out there. They're going to throw down. This is about as raw as it can get as far as like mano a mano. Let's just see who's the toughest dude. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna swing. It's kind of street fight in a ring.
Hmm.
I mean, it is what it is. But you got guys these are serious fighters. There's no showboaters on here.
Yeah,
We've had Beltron, we had Teague, we've had some guys who have had some ups and downs in BKFC come on this show, and even with their results not necessarily being the greatest, there's no these are people that are looking to go into a ring and hurt people
yeah,
and compete. There's no chicken shit here. These are
yeah.
you don't
I'm
if you're
interested in
questioning it,
that.
you don't go in this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm interested in this the Copeland Rothwell fight just because they're heavyweights. In both like with KO power. If you watch the PFL, you have both fought. Copeland was PFL, Rothwell UFC, and it's just as far as like from what I remember, their MMA last few MMA fights, and both guys. I mean, they don't. They're heavy hitters, so I feel like that's probably going to be one that ends early too.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to decision. Rothwell's coming off of a
Mm,
devastating KO in his debut, 20 seconds, give or take, over Bobo Bannon,
mm,
who's a veteran of BKFC and who's put a lot of people to the test. Copeland also 1-0 in BKFC with a second round, actually, I'm sorry, a third round knockout. So two guys who have been in there, swung, two heavy hitters, two guys who are going to weigh in around, the 265 mark.
mhm,
Um, Kind of a late replacement. They each had different opponents as of about 3 weeks ago. Rothwell's opponent dropped out. I don't know about
mhm,
Copeland's opponent, but I think it was just the natural move to match them up to keep Rothwell obviously on the card, who was a must to he's on the posters, he's at the press conference, and Copeland's a name to put up against him, so you don't feel like you're giving him some jobber just to keep him on the card. You're giving him a legitimate challenge. Kamosi Spawn, another one. Chris Kamosi, fought in everything
mhm,
from PFL to UFC, Glory Kickboxing. Um, he fights Spawn, who also fought in PFL, fought in the UFC. Um, so I mean, and that fight's probably going to be about 185, 190 based off what they fought. The weight classes are a little bit like boxing, so there's a lot more weight classes than MMA, so it's hard for me to say exactly what all these are. I don't
mhm.
even honestly know what all their champions are anymore because it's just you watch it for the fights, you're not watching
Yeah.
it for who gets the trophy. Brandon Gertz, another name. Main event against
Mhm.
Syed Awad in Bellator. Um, I mean, he's a heavy hitter. Also, he's 0-1, but he fought a tough
Yeah.
fight in his BKFC debut.
And then obviously this fight with Mike Perry and Luke Rockhold. I mean, we said it a bunch when we had Wheelock on talking about Mike Perry. I mean, and just his how like you said, I mean, talking to come into this at the right time and not be washed up or over the hill and be a young man. I mean, if there's going to be like a true face for BKFC, I think the promotion found it with Mike Perry, especially if he picks up a win over Rockhold. I mean, I know Rockhold's not some chump. I mean, he obviously his overall record speaks for itself. I know he suffered some losses towards the end of his career and what have you, but toward MMA career, but that doesn't mean he's not obviously not walking in there to to lay down for Mike Perry, and Perry just seems to have been genetically engineered for this type of competition.
Yeah, like if there was a video game and you're creative fighter, Mike Perry's the guy the model for the creative fighter for BKFC. He's 3-0. He's got wins over Michael Venom Page, Julian Lane, Michael Seals, all names. I know Seals is less of a name, but um, three good wins, three
Hmm.
wins. Um, and Rockhold is going to come in with a huge size advantage.
Yeah.
Historically, he fought at 185, 205. Perry was a 170er. So there's gonna be some size for Rockhold. If Rockhold's able to stay calm and really composed and use a jab,
Mhm.
he might be able to slow the fight down and
Yeah.
and and do
Who's
some damage to Perry. But it's hard to stop a pit bull when you're locked into that.
Yeah, and that's what's making me think of that when he did that triad. who was the guy that he fought in Triad? Because that guy almost finished it, and then Perry turned around and wound up knocking that guy out too.
That
Um,
was Michael Seals. I'm sorry,
yeah,
I misread his record. So yeah, that
okay,
was Michael Seals. He picked him a win, and that was a pro boxer
yeah,
that
yeah,
he upset.
yeah.
So
So it's
yeah, that yeah. I
it's
mean, so
definitely like if you're gonna watch BKFC just to check it out, this is probably the one you want to grab and check it out.
yeah, I'm not super familiar with Mike Alvarado, but apparently he is uh, he's got a 40-5 record, a pro boxing record.
Hmm.
So I was hearing some stuff uh, about him, being another legit. He's right after the Spawn Kamosi fight.
Hmm.
Being a legit boxer, stepping into this, so could be something to watch out for in the lightweight division. There, if you get a fine-tuned boxer in there who really knows what they're doing and is willing to take the cuts and because that's the whole thing, man. You got to like be willing to know that you're going in for plastic surgery after some of these
Yeah,
fights.
yeah.
There's a mentality that I don't have. I'm not going to speak for you, but most people don't fucking have to
Nah,
to
I'm too
to
old
go
for any
do
of
this,
those
do this.
mentalities.
Even when you're young, though, like
Yeah.
this is that, and that's what excites me about it because it's crazy and it's something honestly I never really thought would ever come back full circle, after the early NHB UFC days as far as bare knuckle. I know Masvidal just announced also a bare knuckle MMA event in Florida this weekend also, so that'll be or next weekend on the 6th, 5th. I'm sorry, Cinco de Mayo, but yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be exciting. I think we're going to get a lot of those viral moments, and they're trying to run a pay per view off of it. I don't know how successful that'll be. That'll be up to see. But if you're going to run a pay per view, they got the right names to try to draw the number that they might need to make it a successful event. Ticket sales wise, I would say that they're probably at like 70% sold maybe. So I think
Mm,
they're probably on schedule for because there's going to be a big walk up gate. That's I would primarily say that's probably how BKFC is. They're going to have day of things when people hear about the weigh-ins going down on Friday. Uh, I think you'll have a good walk up, but I suspect most of the good seats are sold, so I expect that most of the lower price seats will fill out through walk-ins, and they'll be looking at a capacity house, um, which will be fun because the atmosphere there and the anticipation for some of those fights is going to be hardcore. and I'm curious to see how the weigh-ins go and everything else. I think the press conference is tomorrow, so the way chatter's been going between Rockhold and
mm.
Perry, there's been some comical moments. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm
I mean, Perry's actually pretty funny in a lot of those exchanges with any fighter he's had, even when he was in the UFC. So those are always fun to watch. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens at all these lead up things, it's what happens on fight night that counts. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it. You've been to enough BKFC events to know to know what to expect from the crowd and all that, and it should make for quite a list of highlights on Saturday night with all the other stuff going on. But then you move. You get a couple of days to check out Colorado and see check out the weed facilities and God knows what else they have going on there in the mountains and shit. And then you hit Hump Day Wednesday for Invicta FC 53 with the homegirl Lionheart Julia De Corsi, where she gets her first title defense against Rayan dos Santos. Um, I put the video a couple of weeks ago. I spoke with DeCourcy before she got into the deep part of her fight camp. So folks that want to see that interview and the write up I did on her, go over to mymmanews.com and check it out. And the video portion is also on this YouTube channel. I'll link to that in the description once again for folks that want to see it. But that card is Invicta FC's website. Let me just bring it up just so we could look at the card that right on here. Um, Obviously the main event is what we've got our eye on because DeCourcy's not only she been cool with us in the podcast and let me interview her, but you know she her career is definitely something of if you love to root for an underdog, she's always been kind of like an underdog most of her career, and to see her get to where she's at right now, especially the way she's done it with her last two fights. You can watch those on YouTube. This will be on YouTube, so it'll cost you nothing to watch on Wednesday night. Matt will be in a house. I don't know, Matt. It's I'm a little nervous
Well, there's
because
always nerves. There's,
yeah.
it wouldn't be a fight. It wouldn't be competitive if you weren't a little nervous rooting for
Hmm.
somebody that you've gotten close to it, and as somebody who we've rooted for and watched get to this point. I mean, live, literally in
Hmm.
time on this during this podcast. The girl she's fighting is fight wise has more experience, but she only has one fight and be in
Hmm.
Invicta. So when you're talking about some of the bright lights of a bigger organization, she's not as used to that.
Hmm.
Of course, she's favored, which when you follow her on Twitter, she'll let you know that she's
Hmm.
always been the underdog. So
Hmm.
that's a little change of pace, but you know, I, obviously we have some bias here.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna pick the champion, but I think a lot of it has to do with the experience and you're the champion now. Like I feel like there's something to be said for even that she's older in her career, maturing into a well-rounded fighter, mentally and and
Yeah.
physically as far as skills go.
I think from all the conversations I've had with her, she's definitely like she found the recipe that works for her, and it keeps working for her. And even when I talked to her about this fight, because I asked her some stuff about like if you look at this card, interestingly enough, they have Jessica Loboni on the card, who she had beaten for the title. It's a strawweight fight, but Del Boni was trying to like get the rematch with her almost right after, and you know, I, in my opinion, when you get finished the way, if you get finished and that's we talked about this with Adesanya and Pereira and all that, like when you finish someone so convincingly, I think the argument for the rematch is not really there. So it looks like that's over and done with. I actually asked her if that was kind of like a distraction at all to her, and she said no, because again, her mental focus since the fight with before the fight, the way she trains prepares her mind mentally since before the fight with Van Zandt. Obviously, she's doing new things, not just technique wise, but there's a lot of deep mental stuff that she does now to keep her eye on the prize, and I don't think we'll be disappointed come Wednesday. And I like that the cards that they're Wednesday night cards and they're not that long, they're not that stacked. They're just stacked enough for you to stay up on a Wednesday night and watch them.
Yeah, I like the 7 fights.
Yeah.
I like that they get to the point. We don't have a lot of filler early in the
Mm-hmm.
night to trying to, go through and because I'm showing up for every fight. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those people that's going to show up for the main card. So just give me 7 good fights. That's old school UFC style. Um it's interesting you point out I didn't catch that the Delboni fight was at 115. So she's essentially stepping back a little bit then because like you said, if you were gonna be in that cage and challenge somebody after that fight, you got to fight in that weight class. You're gonna
Yeah.
look like a fool if. On top of that, she's gonna have her hands full. Daniela Taylor, somebody that I watched fight one of her early fights in King of the Cage out here.
Mm-hmm.
I watched her at UFC 227 go the distance with Weili Zhang, who's the current UFC champion. So, while not the most flashy over the, she's not Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but
Mm-hmm.
she's a competitor that's fought everywhere and fought all the best people in the world. So I think she's, if Delboni's going up to that weight class, I think she's gonna have her hands full in that fight. I think that's gonna be a good fight. Um, and I know Del Boni's kept busy with some grappling matches, which is good for her. Probably good for her mentally coming off that loss to compete in that Medusa event
Mm-hmm.
and get a couple matches, you know, in her rearview mirror there. But I haven't been to an Invicta event since Invicta. I don't know what I got, 15, like 16, 17. So it'll be nice to get out to one just kind of by fluke and by last, what was it, a month ago they announced
Man,
it.
if
So
they had waited one more month, I would have been able to get to this one.
yeah, I mean, it just worked out by pure luck that I was going to be there for the whole week, because the event that I initially scheduled to go out there and just try to get away for a long weekend is the debut of one championship and what's more than likely starting to look like perhaps the final farewell bout for Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson as he's
which is
flirting
crazy to me.
with the. It makes sense though.
Yeah.
There's a level to it that makes sense because he's proven all he's got. He's getting into a trilogy fight with a guy who gave him the first loss
Hmm.
in forever. A real true challenge, a guy who's gonna come at him in Marias. Um, and I mean, just a like to me, like this is a true trilogy. Like
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
talked about the smaller guys in the past, and occasionally guys, but this is again a trilogy that's brought me back to like okay, like this, like seeing Mighty Mouse lose and then rebound and win by essentially the same move. Basically a flying knee knockout. Like to me, that like I went again from like okay, like he's great, but I'm kind of on the fence to like, dude, this dude's I'm tripping. Like
Yeah.
I'm tripping. Like he's great. And I
Especially the way he won that rematch with teasing the knee, like when he did this thing, come with the when they fought the rematch, and he came low and was like, "Yeah, go ahead and throw the knees," and then came back at him. It was definitely that's like other level.
It
One of
was
the guys.
movie. It was movie. It was movie level. It was. It
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was. And it was a fight that was going back and forth. He
yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't like he was dominating the fight, and it wasn't the old school Dwayne Ludwig doing the
Mhm.
the crane kick thing where he's beating the guy pillar to
Yeah.
post, and then he does it. Like this was in the middle of a fight when like Marias was handing it to him a little bit. Coming off of knocking him out. I mean, he knocked him out with a knee to the head. Like I mean, this is a great fight. This is
Yeah.
going to be on Prime TV.
Yeah.
First in the US, first
Yeah.
event in the US
If you
in.
don't have Amazon Prime, use our Amazon link to sign up for Prime, because this is definitely, if you're gonna watch one championship on that Prime Video, this is like I mean it's just, again, we got Mikey Musumeci doing a grappling match, so I love that they're throwing mixing the actual martial arts on the card, which is I hope like, I mean, you'll be in house to know, but I'm curious just to see how like U.S. fans will take like actual mixed fight cards like that. Coker tried it back in the day with the Dynamite events. I feel like the sport wasn't big enough, yet. Now the sport is where it is, like because it's on ESPN. You got two promotions on ESPN with UFC and PFL. I think it's definitely something that's time to pay attention to. I mean, this is another grappling match. Rene Dorito versus Ty Rutolo, which when they threw that on there, I was literally taken by surprise. Um, I feel like it's going to be similar to when Dorito grappled Galvao, especially since being the Rutolo's kind of like he's under the tree of Galvao with Atos and stuff, and his dimensions. I think it'll just be one of the. I think it goes maybe to a draw, and I'm not trying to like take anything away from Ty Rutolo because I know those kids are something else, but I just think he might be too big for him or just too strong for him. But it's nice to see Dorita do some grappling to kind of shake off that horrible finish from that monster he fought when he was trying to go for 3 titles. So.
Yeah, no. So this event
Mm,
surprised me as far as ticket sales go.
mm,
This event's been sold out now without a single ticket available for I would say roughly 6 weeks at this point.
mm,
I mean, it sold out like late. What are we coming up on May? Like this sold out like in March, like the middle of March. There was not a single seat available, and it wasn't like they just pulled a bunch of tickets. I was watching them disappear as just keeping an eye on it, and it
mm.
went section by section, and maybe they're comping some, but I think they have a I think they have a crowd for this that's
Yeah.
going to be educated on it. I mean, it's for me, it's essentially a once in a lifetime chance to see Rod
Mm,
Tang fight,
mm.
um, which I mean,
I hope they
talk-
come back, man. I really do hope like this is not just a one and done for one
yeah, and
championship.
I don't mean like they're not going to come back, and maybe I'll see Rod Tang fight 10 times in my
Hmm.
life, but
Well,
but
I don't know what they're using. Like, is it ticket sales that they're going to use to measure the bar to if it's worth it for them to come back? Because we know Chachi likes to fuck around with numbers. You know what I mean? Like how do we know he's obviously he's gonna say it was the greatest thing on earth or whatever. But like, how do we know for sure? Like, the only way we'll know for sure is when they announce their return to Colorado. You know what I mean?
that's true. But they're coming here based, I imagine, a little bit off of some of the Prime TV
Hmm.
viewership. So if
Yeah.
the Prime TV viewership is solid, and then you bring an event here, and tickets weren't cheap, it was not like they had
Hmm.
$20 tickets. And if
Yeah.
you sell out your arena, then I
Yeah.
don't think there's really much else you could ask for other than next time going to a bigger arena. I mean, this one I think is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,000 seats. So not
Hmm.
not huge. Basically just a giant
Hmm.
lower bowl and then the floor seats.
Hmm.
And then they got their ramp and the screen, both BKFC and them. So that's taken up a little bit of
Yeah.
the viewing, but I mean, like I said, Rod Tang Musamechi, Stamp
Yeah.
Fairtex, who's done everything and has been kind of the face. Another one I'm excited
Hmm.
to see, Robert
That's good.
Soldik. Um,
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was one of the top free agents. His
Hmm.
debut ended early with a grind shot, so this is essentially his one debut
Hmm.
after being the two weight division champion for KSW, with his last win over Khalidov, uh, who is the face of KSW, along with Marius over there. So that's outstanding. You were about to mention Sage
Say
Northcutt.
yeah, it's his first fight after for God knows when. So
Yeah, 4 years ago he fought Cosmo Alexander, who's a kickboxer, Muay Thai kickboxer.
Mhm.
I saw him fight actually in Lion Fight. Um, and he's a killer, and he crushed Northcutt's face
Yeah.
basically with a straight punch. So that fight's interesting. I mean, the opening fight of the night is a guy whose last fight he lost the championship
Hmm.
with Oak Ranyun. I mean, he has he's literally was the champion one fight ago, and he's opening up against Lowen Tynes. It's a great fight. Akhmedov is 29-2. Um, Reese McLaren, again, another guy who's been around for a while and won and had some competitive fights. En Lasong, former fighter of the year in gosh, I don't remember. I went a couple years ago. I think it was
So
right before the pandemic. He was voted um, MMA the Vegas Awards Fighter of the Year, two division champion.
yeah, and one interesting thing about this, and just to bounce it back to Ms. Lionheart, Jillian DeCourcy, is that there is an atom weight fight on this card, and I know she's obviously focusing on her Invicta fight, but I had asked her, I'm like, one championship's in town. I'm wondering if they would if she picks up the W on Wednesday, does Chatri have the sense to send the invite out and say, "Hey, why don't you come watch our fights here and maybe stir something up and kind of get her name just to see how stir things up with it with atom weights because there's not many atom weight divisions in combat sports, but one championship is one of the people that has an atom weight division. And I know there's the range is different than what one's weight classes are different than what Invicta has, but it would be something that would be nice, especially I mean if she does a title defense and she wants to get one more in, it would be some cool sort of cross promotion that they could do if they want to get their get some more U.S. fans on board with what they're doing over there. So I hope Jillian wins it. I hope Chatri listens to this podcast and floats her VIP, floats her and Andrew of some VIP tickets to come check out the atom weights over at one and see who wants it because she had people calling Ryzen calling her out and stuff before she had this fight booked in May. So I don't know. It's definitely you're in for. I'm jealous, man, that I'm not there. I wish I could have made it, but you know, unfortunately, the timing is bad. May is not a good month for me to go anywhere.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect storm that allowed me to make this happen. You mentioned that, and I don't want to get too far ahead with Julie DeCourcy, but
Mm,
really kind of a perfect organization for her.
yeah,
If you're looking at with the
yeah.
grappling ability, the
Oh,
ability to have
yeah,
grappling matches, and
yeah. Because she always does her off. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
and if she wanted to flirt with kickboxing, I mean, it's there. Um, I don't know what her deal is with Invicta, and obviously that's her home from day one.
Hmm.
Um, but and obviously she has to take care of business on next Wednesday. But that's an interesting thing. I have a feeling she'll be wanting to get the hell home and celebrate a title defense. But down the line,
Well, she did say to me that she she knows there's a lot of stuff going on, and obviously with her kind of being in the middle of everything, she did say she was hoping she would have liked to have gotten to that, but that's what I'm saying. If Chatri, you hear this, and you see she wins, I know you follow the sport. Send Lady Lionheart the two tickets, two VIP passes for for the first bank sender on that Cinco de Mayo.
Well, if she makes it, their beers are on me for her and Andrew. So,
But
um,
one,
yeah,
I mean, we'd be remiss. I mean, we can't obviously. Colorado's our focus for the podcast because you're going to be there. Obviously, people that have been on the podcast with BKFC, Wheelock, and Lytle, and Jillian fighting on Wednesday. A lot of people associated with this show are going to be in Colorado, but we would be remiss if we didn't look at UFC 288. It's in my neck of the woods. UFC apparently doesn't like local New Jersey natives covering too much of their events anymore, especially if they're outspoken and they like MMA and not just the UFC. So I won't be in Newark watching it, but actually one of the people I train with is going to bought some tickets to the show. But uh, Henry Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling will be fighting on May 6th. That Saturday. So we would be remiss if we didn't look at that card and see how one of Long Island's finest facing the returning Henry Cejudo. I don't know. You want to do a quick pick for the main and co-main event for this?
yeah. Let's go to the co-main event first. Gilbert Burns versus Bilal Muhammad. Um, I praised Muhammad going back to the Leon Edwards fight where it ended with the eye gouge. I mean, I've been impressed by him. Not so much impressed because some of his fights have been downright boring, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as like somebody that I kind of pinpointed as a guy who's going to win a lot of fights and be a winner in the UFC, I think I nailed it with that. But I can't go against Burns. What I've seen from Burns is
Mm-hmm.
another level. His punching power is what was unexpected. We knew Gilbert Burns would be a scrappler,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I didn't expect I like if you would have told me he's going to fight Jorge Masvidal and outstrike Jorge Masvidal, I would have told you were friggin' nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe not before this past fight, but if you would have said that 2 years ago, I would have thought that was crazy talk.
Mm-hmm.
Masvidal's older and retirement was on the mind and stuff, and maybe he would have outstruck him 2 years ago, Burns. But I would have thought that's a little over the top. I would say he would take him down, rear naked choke him, or something like that. So I gotta go with Burns. I think the fight probably stays on the feet.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of where Muhammad's fights have been recently. He's picked up some close decision wins on the feet, but I got to go with Burns, and I think Burns just lands a big shot. I don't know if he gets to finish because Muhammad really nobody's finished him. But the way Burns has been on fire, coming off a win, fresh. I mean, not
Yeah.
not fresh as far as he's fighting quick, a quick turnaround,
Yeah.
which I think can be good. If he didn't suffer injuries in his last fight, I think he's got that mindset, and I think with the title on the line, I think while both these guys want that title shot, I feel like Burns is just I think I favor Burns to win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, what do the odds say here? Oh, they didn't even list it for you. I guess because it's new. It's that freshly booked at the UFC. They don't like to be too current on their own website, as we know from the past. Every time we use it, but um, the flip side to that is Bilal is probably more rested and refreshed and ready to go versus someone that just went through a camp and is now going through another one, and then they for some reason it's going to be 5 rounds too. Um,
Which I think is
so
great. Which I think
yeah,
is
yeah.
great. I think should be something that becomes more of a staple for co-main events that have, especially ones that are number one contender fights.
Yeah, yeah, like if there's title implications, I agree with that. So I mean, that being said, I think the flip side is Muhammad having the more rest, having some rest, and then a camp coming versus someone that did double camp. We saw what happened with Tony Ferguson when he made weight twice to fight Justin Gaethje, and then it fell short. So I mean, I just looking at stuff like that makes me think, just trying to be objective. But I do favor Burns in the matchup just because he's someone that if he wasn't fighting MMA, he was doing competitive grappling, and he's just always on anyway. And then we have the main event, which It's obviously with the everybody. If you anyone listening to this podcast knows I'm a big fan of Sterling. I've always kind of picked him in the past, and then he's not someone that fights stupid. He's actually pretty smart in the way he fights. But Henry Cejudo coming, it's his first fight back after taking some time off himself. But the guys that are Olympians, their mindset's different, their preparation is different. He's been helping other people fight for he helped John Jones get ready for that Cyril Gane fight, and I there's something to be said for teaching and training, helping your own game. Anyone that does it can tell you that it makes you better yourself when you start showing people things, because you notice new things in technique and stuff. And it's I think this fight is kind of going under the radar for how competitive it could possibly be. Um, the reach and height advantage obviously go to Sterling, and giving his wrestling and grappling ability. I don't want to say it's better than Cejudo's, but I feel like his jiu-jitsu is where he holds the edge if Cejudo tries to force the wrestling on him. Plus, he can always outstrike him and just kind of like fire away and jab if he to pull off the win. So it's an interesting fight. I don't really, I can't really make a pick here though.
Well, it sounds like you're picking Sterling basically to win. And he's your hometown boy, so I get it. I tend to agree. I think it would have done Cejudo better to come back and maybe not be fighting the champ. I think, I know that was the fight he was going to take. That's the money fight, and he's not going to risk losing to somebody that isn't the champion. But I'm not sure what the ring rust is going to do there. So and Sterling is close enough to kind of a mirror image as far as like like you said, you got the jiu-jitsu favor Sterling. The wrestling, you got to favor Cejudo based off of the Olympic gold medals. I mean, but at the same time, MMA wrestling's different, and Sterling has shown that he's really good at that too. So, I feel like Cejudo's big thing is the big punch. I don't know if Sterling walks into it. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sterling by decision. That'll be my pick for this fight. I think that. Yeah, I think he wins by decision. I think he's more active for 3 of the 5 rounds, and probably picks up a close decision. I don't think this is a fight where we're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, hey, I want to watch that fight over and over again.
Yeah.
But
and it's not a fight that he's not had on his mind. I mean, they've been mentioning each other's name for quite some time, so it's not like it's a fight that's something that he hasn't been mentally ready to do anyway. So I'm definitely I don't think anybody should count him out. What were the odds on that?
It was even. Cejudo was a slight favorite, -115 to -105.
Yeah. So yeah, that just goes to show you. I mean, we're not the only ones that are. I mean, I know we're both leading Sterling, but I mean, it's not something that can, if something else happens, nobody can really be surprised about it. But I mean that's pretty much that covers us for Colorado. And next week there will be no podcast next week for everyone that listens, because Matt's in Colorado. He'll be watching fights and smoking weed and God knows what else. And I'll be
probably not smoking weed. Probably not smoking weed, but drinking some beers for sure, and taking in Colorado.
But isn't it legal out there? That's the only reason why I keep mentioning
yeah,
the
but it
weed.
might not be legal at my job, so probably not smoking weed. Yeah, and you'll be enjoying Wednesday watching Jillian DeCourcy defend her title. So
Yeah.
That'll be going on there. So
And
fans
one
don't feel like you have nothing
Yeah.
on Wednesday. I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll be sending out plenty of tweets reminding you that event's going down and that he'll be watching it. Probably a beer of his own.
And happy Cinco de Mayo to my white friends that celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
I didn't even realize that the event was on Cinco de Mayo, but that adds a little bit of flair to it. Should make it fun. So fans can check us out at Combat Hour on Twitter. Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as always, you can check us out at allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for our video podcast, MMA news, and MMA stories. Best of luck to Julian DeCourcy. And hopefully my travels go smoothly. And I'm back here in 2 weeks to talk about a crazy week.
Peace.